Keep the Faith podcast back again, everybody. Not trying to sound like a church Geordie or anything. No, we're going to do some championship predictions today. I cannot wait to butcher these things up and get them wrong. Anyway, I've got Ben and Cameron with me. So how are you both doing, lads?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Yeah, not too bad considering Saturday's result.
Yeah, let's. I was going to say let's not go there, but we'll probably mention it at some point anyway. Great. All I'll say is great getting beat 5-0 off a second-string Celtic side. So need not say more really. Were you there, Cameron?
I wasn't, mate. Fortunately, I couldn't get the time off of work, so I had the joy of not actually attending that one.
You had a better day than me and Ben did.
I mean, I was surrounded by Newcastle fans though, so that wasn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That wouldn't have been particularly pleasant. Oh my god. Well, okay then. Less said about Celtic, the better. So, as the title will suggest, this episode's all about the championship. Before we start, we hasten to add that I can't speak for Ben and Cameron, but I'm pretty safe in assuming that we have barely any knowledge on the championship. So, I wouldn't, certainly with my predictions, I wouldn't take anyone listening. I wouldn't take these can't speak table or teams seriously because this is based on instinct rather than knowledge. The only bits I've had in the champion, I was saying to these two off air before coming on, the only bits I've had sorted in stone are my top 2 and my bottom 3, and that's it. Everywhere else is just ridiculously open. And I hasten to add, for the outside the playoffs, between 7th and 11th or 12th, there could be the playoffs, and between the playoffs and 12th, could be separated by about 10 points. So anyone could finish anywhere. So bear that in mind before we start. But anyway, are you two looking forward to this? This is going to be fun.
I mean, yeah, I can imagine that it might come back to bite us in the arse around March next year, April next year, but we'll see what happens.
What, when we've all predicted Sunderland to win the league and then we end up getting relegated?
Don't know. I think it's better to be on the side of caution at this point of the season. I think
yeah, it probably is. Oh yeah, just remember we don't have David Moyes saying we're going to be in a relegation battle 2 games into the season at the championship. That would be catastrophic, wouldn't it? Okay then, right, let's not waste any more time. So, are you guys okay? We'll start from the bottom and we'll work our way up to the top. What I figured we might do is we'll start by saying our bottom 3 and then we'll just try and briefly explain why we think they're going to be in the bottom 3. So, here goes nothing. So, who wants to start? Right, we've got the bottom 3. I'll let Cameron start this one. Who do you think will be the 3 teams to get relegated to League One?
So my bottom 3 in 24th place I've got Burton, 23rd Millwall, and 22nd Barnsley.
Okay then, we'll ask Ben quickly.
Yeah, my 24th would be Burton, 23rd Barnsley, and 22nd Millwall.
Interesting. Right, well, I'll say that I've got 2 of mine are the same as yours. Not the same order, though. 24th, I've got Millwall. 23rd, I've got Burton. And 22nd, I've got Bristol City. So, right, okay. Right. Seeing as you two have pretty much got the same bottom 3, I'll let one of you start then. Explain briefly why you think each team will be in the bottom 3 as best you can.
Right, well, Burton, I just think don't have the size of they're not a big enough club basically to be able to put up much of a challenge in the championship, in my opinion. Similar note to Millwall. Millwall have been a yo-yo club between the Championship and League One for a while now, and I just can't see them. I mean, the way they came up last season against Bradford in one of the worst games of football I've ever seen in that playoff final was just. I think it sort of summed them up almost, and I can't see them doing much more. And then I was really tight between Barnsley and Bolton, but I just think Bolton will have the little edge over them to be able to finish above them.
Yeah, pretty much echoing what Cameron said. I think Burton probably don't have the budget to, and really they steered up on merit last year. They had no real quality. You know, I think they'll go down quite comfortably, to be honest. Barnsley, I think they've sold some of their best players. I think Conor Hourihan's been sold, right? So he was one of their most influential players last year. So I think they'll struggle with the loss of him. And Millwall, I lived near Millwall last year, and so I got quite a good exposure of how Millwall did. And yeah, I don't think they have the squad to stay up or even compete at that level. So, and like Cameron said, I watched that playoff final, and it was horrible to watch. It was an absolute torrid.
It was gruesome, like it was absolutely awful.
Yeah, it was
So,
atrocious. I remember watching it with Pete. I think I think it was the day before the final game of the Premier League, and I remember we were watching it and just
yeah,
I thought it was like a bit of a game, like a wet fart. It wasn't anything. It was just a nothing game. But Millwall just happened to smash and grab a chance at the end. It was just, and I thought Bradford probably had the better chances, and I think Bradford would have probably looked more of a threat in the Championship. Um, Millwall, I mean, you two pretty much said what I thought. Yo-yo, basically the Sunderland version of the Championship to League One yo-yo thing. Burton Albion, second season syndrome. I think Nigel Clough could possibly keep them up. I'm not sure, but I don't think they've got enough. And Bristol City, this is based off one particular reason. As much as Barnsley have sold key players, and Marley Watkins, I think, was a big player for them, if I've said that name right, gone to Norwich. But Bristol City don't have Tammy Abraham's goals this year. And I think he probably single-handedly kept them up last season. So I think on the basis of that, I think they'll struggle. Not much more to say, really.
Very good point, actually, about Abraham's goals, to be fair, because I think he was in the top 5 scorers in the Championship in a basically relegation threatened side.
Something like
that.
I think he got like 20. Didn't he get like over 23, 25? Didn't he get 23, 26 goals or something last year?
I know that he scored a lot. I know that I wanted him on loan at Sunderland this season.
Yeah, I was desperate to get him. But, oh well, we'll see how he does with Swansea, but we'll cover that when we do our Premier League predictions next week. Anyway, okay then, so now here's the fun. Now, this is the fun bit. There's 7th to 21st. Christ, this is going to be fun. Okay then, we'll just go through... Well, I'll tell you what, we'll just go through each position and just say who we've got finishing where, because I can't think of any other cohesive way to do it. So, 21st, I'll start this one off. 21st, now, Cameron, you mentioned it was between Barnsley and Bolton, I think, so I'm presuming, like me, you've got Bolton to finish 21st.
I do, yeah, I've got Bolton in 21st place.
Okay then, Ben?
Yeah, full house, I've got Bolton to finish 21st place.
Oh, full house, alright then, we actually agree on something. I think I'll start as one. I think Phil Parkinson's a good, if our memory serves right, I think he is still there. Phil Parkinson's a good manager, and I think Bolton will have that. Bolton will probably do what Burton did last year, where no one will probably, not many people will expect them to stay up, and they'll end up just surprising everybody. I think Bolton will probably have an aggressive style of play, because Phil Parkinson liked to play that way at Bradford, and I think they've signed likes of Sammy Ameobi and Will Buckley, who aren't big household names, but I'd imagine should be enough, or would be enough to keep them in the Championship for me. So that's why I think Bolton will finish 21st. Not much more.
No, I think you got a spot on, mate, to be fair. I'd probably say the same thing. I think they're going to just have enough to stay up. I think a lot of the time where it works survive from relegation, which we know as Sunderland fans over the last few years, it just takes 3 teams to be worse than you are.
Oh, yes.
And I think there's going to be 3 teams worse than them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've ruined our luck on that, and I think Bolton will be hopefully thinking the same thing next season.
Yeah, when they're competing against us to avoid relegation. Okay then, 20th. Okay, I'll go last on this one, so one of you two can start it.
Right, 20th place, then I've got Ipswich.
I've got QPR.
I've got Nottingham Forest.
I have Forest a lot higher than that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we'll come to that later then. So go on then. So who was it who had Cameron? Who did you have 20th again?
I had Ipswich.
Ipswich. Okay then. Elaborate.
I just think that they've been around the midpoint of the Championship, not really doing much. Nothing. I don't see that much potential there to kind of move on from those kind of mid-table positions, and I just think it's going to be another bang average season for them, really.
Okay then. And you said was it QPR, Ben, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, I said QPR based on the fact that I watched them last season a few times when I was in London, and they've really got a kind of average squad, to be fair. And the club behind the scenes are a little bit like Sunderland as well. They don't really have a clue. The owners are pretty poor, so I think they'll be in for a dreadful season, really. Based on the fact that they were in the Premier League a few years ago, they've really plummeted. So I think, yeah, that's why they'll be down there.
Okay then. I've actually just realised I've written QPR twice on my table, so this isn't very professional, is it? I'll come to that. I'll deal with that later. 20th, I've got Nottingham Forest. A couple of reasons. The first one is that they needed to stay up on the final day of last year, and I think they played Ipswich, if I remember rightly, to try and stay up, and they didn't look very convincing there, albeit though that could be down to nerves. And the big one is that they've sold Britt Assombalonga. I don't know. I mean, although they've got Daryl Murphy to replace him, and I think Daryl Murphy will get them goals to keep them up. I just don't. I'm not convinced by the rest of their team. Bearing in mind, again, you have to bear in mind there's a lack of knowledge on my part, but from what I've seen of them, I don't feel very convinced by them. I think Nottingham Forest are historically a big club, but they've turned into battling relegation in the Championship for quite a while, and I just think that it's just going to be another season of just nothingness for them, really. So make of that what you will. Okay then. Right, 19th. So I'll start this one. I've got the last promoted club, Sheffield United, to finish 19th. I think they'll do the best out of the 3 promoted teams.
Yeah, I've got Ipswich to finish 19th.
Okay then.
I've got Bristol to finish 19th.
Bristol City. Oh, okay then. Go on then. Feel free. Anyone of you feel free to start once I can get my words out.
The Bristol thing's already been said, hasn't it? Tammy Abraham's goals are going to be missing. But again, I do just think there's teams that are worse than them in the league that will finish below them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but based on Ipswich, for me, I think they're on a really tight budget and they've had to be savvy with the funds they've had. And, I think the one horrendous fact for Mick McCarthy is they've had a really bad pre-season as well. They've lost against sides that are much lower than them in the league pyramid, as Sunderland have. So, yeah, that's why I've got them down there. There can't be much confidence in that squad.
Well, I've got Ipswich a few positions higher than that, but I just think Sheffield United, I don't know what it is. I just can't see any of the promoted clubs actually, I don't know. Sheffield United, I can sort of see making a good go of it because I think historically they're probably a bigger club as well. But I'm not desperately convinced by them at the moment. This is again, that sounds so bad. Sheffield United, I do think will make a decent fist of staying up, and I think they'll do it. But I just don't think they'll do much more than that, to be honest. So yeah, let's go to 18th then. Barnes, sorry, well, I'll start. I've kind of spoiled it anyway. I've gone for Barnsley to finish 18th. If I'm correct, I think you two predicted them to get relegated. I know Cameron certainly did.
Yeah.
Okay then. You two. Barnsley, I suppose, just because probably 3 worst teams. I hasten to add, I've put Barnsley 18th, but I think again, it could 18th to about 22nd could be separated by less than 10 points. So. But I think Barnsley will be in the mix, but something tells me they'll just about do enough to stay up because I don't think they'll miss Marley Watkins as much as what Bristol City will miss Tammy Abraham. But Barnsley, I wouldn't be surprised if Barnsley went down though.
I've got Sheffield United. Again, just for reasons that you said with them just coming up and just getting promoted. And yeah, I think it'll be probably more of a conserving season, pretty much, where they're just going to try and stay in the Championship and probably look to push on next season.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I've got Preston at 18th. I think losing Grayson to ourselves might hinder their progress. I'm not particularly a great fan of Alex Neil, who they've got in. I think he's quite one-dimensional, and with the players they've got there, I don't think it'll work for him. And hopefully they might lose Jordan Ugal to Sunderland. So I'm anticipating that might happen later on in the window. So that'll take away a lot of their goal threat that they had last season.
That wouldn't surprise me, actually. That wouldn't surprise me. Okay, hang on. What position were we on? 18th there. Okay, so Preston. Okay then. And Cameron, you mentioned 18th as well. So we'll go to 17th. Who wants to start that one off?
QPR. That's who I've gone with. Same reasons that Ben said before. I mean, obviously he knows a lot more about the club than I did living down London last year, but I just assume that it's, again, similar to Sunderland, pretty rotten in the background and just doesn't really have the potential to finish much higher. The fact they're in London will probably help them finish above the teams below them just because of you can attract a slightly higher calibre of player, but I still don't think it's going to be enough to put any sort of playoff challenge or anything like that below mid-table for them.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, I've got Nottingham Forest there. A club that's pretty much been in exile for like years. Of club, they've really done nothing. They've got pretty low ambitions. Just seeing from the people they're signing, like Kieran Dowell from Everton, I've noticed signed for them. A young kid. They're not signing proven Championship players, and also what you said, Michael, that some belongers went to Middlesbrough. I think that'll cut out a bit of that goal threat. Although he was very injury prone, which hopefully will hinder Middlesbrough as well, but I don't think it will.
You never know. But like I said, they have got Daryl Murphy, who I think that's one of the reasons I wouldn't predict them to get relegated, because I think that Daryl Murphy has proven that he can get goals in this league. I think he will just about do enough to keep them up. So 17th, I've got Brentford. Again, this is I'm sorry to anyone who's listening that I'm repeating myself 50 times, but again, it's a complete lack of knowledge here. I think Brentford actually did all right last year. I've got the Championship table from last season in front of me. Yeah, Brentford did 10th. So Brentford fans are probably going to be hurtling things at the screen at me, thinking they're going to finish 17th. But I think, again, with how open the Championship is, it's quite literally ridiculously open. In fact, I think between, say, 9th and about 15th, it was 9 points separating a lot of them. So, although albeit I did say for them 17th. So I just think Brentford will have a mid-table Championship season. They might push higher. You never know. They could firm challenge for the playoffs, because they probably do play quite aggressively when I've seen them, albeit on highlights in the past. But I just think a mid-table season's in store for them, really, and not much more.
So next, I have just finished up with QPR Cardiff.
So this is in 16th, if I believe.
16th, yeah. 16th place, Cardiff.
Okay, then.
I just don't think they've got... They had the little bit of their limelight when they came into the Premier League, but since that point there, they haven't really done much. Players like Federico Macheda being at the club the last few years, players like that just kind of don't really give any sort of excitement levels or any kind of potential to challenge higher up the Championship table.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I've got Bristol City in 16th, like you said earlier. I think losing Tammy Abraham at Swansea will really derail them going forward, and also Aidan Flint, who was a rock to them last season. I heard Bristol City fans, he was the most valued player ahead of Tammy Abraham in that squad, and it's looking ever increasingly likely that he's going to move on to a bigger club, probably in the Premier League. I can see it happening. So
I was going to do a cough and say Sunderland should be in for him, but nevertheless, okay then. Well, actually, 16th I've got Ipswich. I think, again, because Mick McCarthy knows how to keep... I think there's two managers in this division that almost seem to know every year how to keep a club in the Championship. One's Mick McCarthy, the other's Neil Warnock. So I've got Cardiff 3 positions higher. But at the minute, Ipswich. But again, for similar reasons, they finished last couple of years' seasons as far... I know they got to the playoffs. I think 3 seasons ago, if I remember rightly. Or was it 2? It was 2 or 3 seasons ago. They got into the playoffs, lost to Norwich in the semi-finals, and then since then, they haven't really mounted that much of a challenge, if I remember correctly. So I've actually got them to finish the same position that they finished last season. They finished 16th at the end of last year. So I just think Mick McCarthy will steady the ship. But if it's true about the pre-season, and I looked at their transfers, they haven't got much money to spend by the looks of it. Yeah. Same reason I said with Brentford. I think they'll do mid-table, but I'll be very, very surprised. I would be very surprised if they did more than that. I just don't. I think, like what Ben said about Nottingham Forest, Ipswich don't strike me as an ambitious club, which must be frustrating for their supporters, obviously. But they've got the man to keep them in the Championship. But if you want them to progress and go further, then they need to go in a different direction, I think. Still, though, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that.
No, go on, Karen. I'll let you finish.
No, I'm just saying I'd 100% agree with what you were saying about Ipswich. That's why I had them low down the table. I think that they're probably a club that could have that Premier League potential, but just don't seem to have the funds or any ambition in the back room to sort of push them on for that.
Fair enough. And Ipswich fans and any fans, comment below if you think we're wrong and tell us, because we're just speaking from the outside. Again, with little knowledge as to what's going on. So tell us if we're outwardly wrong on anything. Okay then. So 15th, right? I've got Preston. Now I'll quickly say there's my bit on this now. I know Ben said earlier he wasn't a fan of Alex Neil. Certainly a year ago I would have been I wouldn't say a big fan, but I I appreciate that Alex Neil thought did a decent enough job at Norwich, even though they got relegated, because I didn't think their squad was good enough to stay in the Premier League. However, I can't ignore the fact that under Norwich, I think they did heavily underperform last year, but I'll talk more about that when I talk to Norwich. Or talk about them. Alex Neil, I think, didn't get enough out of the players. I think in Preston, Ben might have a good point actually. It mightn't work with the players that he's got, and I think he'll have an inferior set of players at Preston as to what he had at Norwich. But I think they will. Again, I think they will finish mid-table. I don't mind Alex Neil, but I don't see Preston doing anything special this year. But you never know. Watch them go and win the league or something. I'll be proven wrong. So I'll let you two carry away with 15th, whoever you've got respectively.
Well, I've also got Preston. So, again, I think losing Grayson to us, no McGeady. And I just think that, again, just a mid-table finish. Preston never really can amount to much more than that. And I don't think the club has the potential to do much more than that. Otherwise, Grayson wouldn't have moved to Sunderland from Preston.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I've got Cardiff in 15th. Obviously, under Neil Warnock, I like Neil Warnock as manager. I would have took him at Sunderland. But he's got a nucleus of a squad there that he knows and trusts, with Paddy Kenny and Danny Ward, John Stead, who he's all had before. But, them players, I think, have been there and done it, and I don't think they're as good as they were while he was at Sheffield United anyway now. So, yeah, and a tight budget, like you guys said. So I think the typical mid-table finish for a pretty insignificant team. Sorry, Cardiff fans, but that's my... I don't like that.
I like that. Cardiff fans, pretty insignificant team, right? You don't matter. Okay, then.
I haven't got much love for Cardiff at all.
Is this for Vincent Tan more than anything else?
No, I enjoyed it when Vincent Tan was there. It was quite a funny stage of proceedings, wasn't it?
Didn't he boo them when Sunderland went there or something? We came back from 2-0 down to get a draw in the last 10 minutes, and he booed his own team at the full-time whistle.
Yeah.
Which I thought was...
remember that.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty damn funny, actually. Anyways, okay then. So, I told before I'd written QPR twice on here, so I had to wrap my brain like hell to think who the other team was. I figured out who it was. But anyway, 14th, yeah, I've got QPR. I think they are... Since they got relegated from the Premier League, they haven't really done very much. I think the first season they got into the playoffs... In fact, no, hang on. No, lie, they didn't. I'm thinking when Harry Redknapp was there. I think with QPR, their squad's just got progressively worse. I think they felt the effect of not getting promoted the first time of asking, and if I remember rightly, this is the last year of their parachute payments, so they've already got a good section of it, and not presumably gone to the club or it hasn't been used on the playing squad. I just think, again, mid-table finish for QPR. I like Ian Holloway. I don't think he's not a Premier. I think Ian Holloway historically is a good manager to get you out of the Championship, but as far as Premier League goes, nah, not really for me. I like Ian Holloway as a persona a lot, but I just don't think QPR are in for anything special this year. So I can't really say anything else on that I haven't said already about a lot of other teams. So QPR 14th for me.
For me, 14th is Brentford. Again, they were 10th last season. I just think it's going to be another mid-table season again. I just think another club that doesn't quite have that potential in terms of the amount of money that they have and the size of the club to finish much higher than mid-table in the Championship.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I've got Sheffield United, so one of the promoted clubs. I think finished quite highly in 14th, really. I think they've got Billy Sharp up top. I think he'll get the goals to get them into a fairly comfortable position. He's been there and done it before. And yeah, I've got very little knowledge on Sheffield United, but I've just put them as the best of the three that's come up.
I'd agree with that.
I think they are the best by far, to be honest. They showed that last season. They were head and shoulders above everyone.
Yeah, they finished quite comfortably above everybody else in League One, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think certainly what the advantage they've got is they probably got the most money to spend, I would imagine. I know they won't have head and shoulders money to spend, but I do think they would have more than what Bolton and Millwall have got. No, Bolton's got a transfer embargo, and Millwall's transfer signings haven't been as ambitious for me. So I think Sheffield United is definitely the biggest of the three clubs as well. Actually, I don't know. Bolton have been historically big in recent Premier League era, but now, go on. I interrupted half your points there.
And something that might influence the high finishes because Sheffield Wednesday's in the league as well, so they'll not want to disgrace themselves in front of Wednesday. So
Right, we need to make ourselves a date when the Sheffield Derby is. I want to watch that now. That's going to be quite interesting. Okay then, so fair enough then. Cameron, who have you got to finish 14th?
14th, I have got Nottingham Forest. That's who's coming in next. I mean, I know we talked about the fact they've lost to Somberlonger, but at the same point, he was injured for large portions of last season. You've already spoke about it, Michael, the fact that Daryl Murphy's come in, and we know, as well as Newcastle fans know, he can score goals in the Championship if he's given enough games and given the right service. So I think they'll be all right. I think they'll finish about mid-table. Again, a bit of a sleeping giant. I think they do have that potential to rise back up to the Championship, but they just need the funds and the backing.
They need the ambition to do it more than anything else as well. I think Ben mentioned it earlier. They haven't really done very much, and they could easily do a lot more, couldn't they?
Oh, 100%. That's why I don't have them any higher up. That's why I've got them 12th. I think that there is that lack in ambition and that lack in, like I said, backing in the club, funds being provided. So, yeah, 12th place for Forest.
12th place, you mean 14th?
14th place, sorry.
I was going to say, I'm already confused enough by this table as it is. I'm just barely managing to keep everything in check. Okay then, by 13th. So, you two have already said Cardiff, haven't you, in your predictions? Or I know Ben has, I don't know if Cameron has yet.
Yeah.
You have, okay, I thought you had. Well, I say that because I've got Cardiff to finish 13th. I don't know, like I said before, I like Mick McCarthy, but Neil Warnock, I think, is one that is just guaranteed to get you safety in the Championship, or certainly at least to get you mid-table mediocrity in the Championship. I like Neil Warnock as a personality. I think he's a nutter on occasions, but I just think he's a really entertaining personality. Mind you, again, I know they've signed a couple of players from Rotherham. I think Lee Ward, or is it Danny? I think it's Lee Ward is one of them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ben might know the most out of the three of them.
It's Danny Ward. Yeah.
Danny Ward, right? Okay.
It's striker, yeah.
So right, sorry, Cardiff fans and Rotherham fans, got that completely wrong. I do apologise, but signings. Again, don't strike me as tremendously ambitious, but at the same time, they'll do enough to avoid being in a relegation scrap, I think. They did it quite comfortably last year, although you could argue that's the honeymoon period that's going to wear down. But with Cardiff, I think they'll do enough. I think they'll have a good mid-table season, but again, not much more than that.
I just realised that I gave two teams for 14th place, because my 13th place that we're on now is meant to be Forest, because I already gave Brentford as my 14th place.
Oh well, so I'm not the only one who cocked up the table then.
So no, I just basically said it twice. Like, I started the 14th place, and then we looped back round to me again, and I gave you a second team for 14th place. So it's meant to be Forest in 13th place for the reasons that I said before.
Oh well then.
Yeah, I've got Brentford in 13th place. So I think they've just got a pretty mediocre squad, to be fairly honest. Just looking through that squad now as we're speaking, I can't see anyone who's going to kind of propel them forward into the playoffs, even though they were in the playoffs a few years ago. But no, my knowledge on Brentford is pretty poor, to be fair. So sorry, Brentford fans.
That's going to be the title of this podcast. My knowledge is pretty poor on the Championship. Yeah, I know Brentford did quite well to get in the playoffs a couple of years ago. I think it was deemed a very big underdog story, so to speak, for them to get into the playoffs. But okay then, so now we are into the top half of the table. I was scrambling around like really hectically to try and predict a top 12, because half of the from here till about 5th or 6th, this is completely interchangeable. I think anyone could finish anywhere, and like I said many times before, anyone could. The point difference probably between 12th and say 5th or 6th, 15 points or less probably. I know that probably sounds like a big gap, but when you've got loads of teams competing for that, you're going to have every team from here upwards, I can see potentially competing for the playoffs. So, in 12th, now, this may come as a shock, Derby County is who I've got to finish in 12th. I can hear the gasps among Derby County fans right now. Derby County, I know they're going for Tom Lawrence from Leicester, who I think, if I remember rightly, he was at Ipswich last season. I think he would be a very good signing for them, I think, actually. But I do think they've sold, on paper, it looks like their two best players. They've sold Tom Ince to Huddersfield and they've sold Will Hughes to Watford. And I think both of them would have been a huge factor in them competing to try and be near the playoffs for the last couple of seasons. And I think without those two, you've lost a bit of creativity there. You've lost something. You lost just that extra something in the middle of the park as well. Andrew Wisdom from Liverpool could be a good signing, but I don't. Darren Bent again. They've got someone who's okay going forward. But Derby for me have just sold their on paper again their two best players. Looking at it from the outside, so I don't. It wouldn't surprise me they got playoffs. Between now, we hasten to add, by the way, between now and the transfer window, this could be completely changed. But as for Derby, I think Derby will be mid-table, but I wouldn't be surprised if they sign someone who will get them near enough the playoffs. And Gary Rowett did quite well. They've got a good manager in Gary Rowett as well, actually. So they probably will finish high now that I've said this.
You've just convinced me they're going to finish higher. But players I've got Birmingham. I think that the fact that Harry Redknapp's still there after saving them last season, players like Craig Gardner, they've also got David Stockdale, I believe, they've signed from Brighton in goal, who's a quality Championship goalkeeper. Another one who I probably would have took at Sunderland, to be honest. And I just think that they have a good enough squad with a good enough manager to prop up the top half of the table.
Yeah, I'm snap with Cameron. I've got Birmingham 12th as well. I think they've got a good defence, and also Stockdale coming in. I think that'll really tighten up their defence, because he played really well for Brighton last year. I was really impressed by him. But up front, I think they might struggle for goals. They've got Luke Jukovic up front, who was at Middlesbrough many moons ago. I don't particularly rate him, so that's why I've got them just finishing in the top half rather than a bit higher towards the playoffs.
Okay, I've got Birmingham a couple of positions higher, actually. But anyway, right, 11th. You two tell me your shot by this. 11th, I've got Hull.
Right. I've got Hull a lot higher than that.
I've got Hull a bit higher than that, yeah.
There's same thing with Derby, but a bit more of extreme with Hull. El Mohammedi's gone, who actually probably for the Championship had quite rate. Harry Maguire's gone to Leicester. Andrew Robertson's gone to Liverpool. And I know there's another big player that they've sold. In fact, I'll try and look it up now. But there's another player that I would consider pretty big for their squad that they've sold. I just think Hull's, put it this way, as bad in a state Sunderland are in terms of player signings and transfers and whatnot. Tom Huddleston was the other one, actually, and I think he'll be a miss for them actually this season. Then when you take all those players out of it, I can't see anyone in Hull's squad now that strikes me as anyone who's going to get them certainly at least top 6. There's no doubt that's what Hull should be aiming for. They should be aiming to be at least in the top 6, but they've sold a majority of their key players. They've sold almost the spine of the team. I think is it Jankovic, one of their goalkeepers? Has he gone to Leicester, or is he still there? Yeah, I'm thinking so. Again, in the next month or so, they're probably going to sign players that'll make me look like an idiot. So I'm braced for that. But quite a bold prediction to have Hull so low down. But I just don't think I don't see why Hull are going with selling every single one of their best players. I thought they'd try a bit harder to keep some of them, to be honest. And that Slutsky, I don't know what he's like. He might be the next Marco Silva, who knows? But we'll see.
In 11th place, I have Reading. I know they finished 3rd last year, so I've got them pretty low in comparison, but I do also think they overperformed last year, and if you also looked at their form towards the back end of last season, it was mixed at best. I just don't think that they've got the amount of quality in the side to put up another promotion challenge, in my opinion.
I've got Leeds in 11th. Might surprise people, just based on that. They always seem to miss out on the playoffs, and this year if you include Aston Villa, Middlesbrough and Sunderland, I think who'll all finish above them. Obviously that'll knock them down a few places. That's my logic, because I don't think they've really strengthened their squad, and they've lost Gary Monk as well, who's I think is the best manager in the Championship. So yeah, that's why I think Leeds will be so far down. And I think the ownership of the club as well is a bit like Sunderland. It's a bit always up and down. There's no stability really at Leeds, and they always seem to miss out. So yeah, might shock a few people.
I will say, in comparison, as much as we've got Ellis Short, who has had questionable times to say the least, I don't think he's as bad as what the Leeds owner is. Certainly not in an attitude sense. But I can see where you're coming. I can see where you're coming from. To be fair. Okay. The next couple of positions upwards, I've just pretty much swapped around at the last minute, just because I was trying to think in my head as you were talking about who was going to finish where. So 10th. Okay, 10th, I've got Birmingham. I think Cameron touched upon it before. The fact that Harry Redknapp's there, I think, could see them potentially challenge for the playoffs. But you two correct me on this. When was the last time Harry Redknapp managed in the Championship?
QPR.
QPR. Oh yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's a few years ago. So yeah, he does know what it takes, I suppose, to manage in this league. But I just think with Birmingham again, considering they're a club that have battled to stay in the division for the last few years, I can't see them all of a sudden going and challenging for the playoffs just because the manager's there. Although you could argue Huddersfield. So. But with Birmingham, I think David Stockdale, I agree with Cameron. I think he's a good, solid Championship keeper. He would have been because they got top 2 last year. Should have won with Brighton. Should have won the league, to be honest. But at the same time, Birmingham, I wouldn't be surprised to finish higher. Between now and the end of the window, they might sign someone. Aidan Flint, I know they're going for. Joe Bryan, I'm from Bristol City, I think they're going for. So they'll be 2 solid additions, I think. And certainly also based on what people have said about them, Aidan Flint especially should be a solid addition for them. So they could finish higher, but I think the teams above are just should be just that little bit stronger at the moment, subject to change though. So Ben, you can start this one. Sorry, Cameron, just to go the order. Ben, who have you got for 10th?
No bother. I've got Reading in 10th place. I think I'm hoping they're on a bit of a downer from their playoff final last year. I'm hoping the players haven't really picked up. I mean, they've got some good players, but in any squad who's got Paul McShane in defence, I fear for them. Just based on what I saw when he was at Sunderland.
Fair enough. Breaking news: Sunderland re-signed Paul McShane from Reading.
Yeah, I think I'd stop going if that happened. But yeah, I mean, I think they'll just miss out based on the fact that there's 9 probably much better teams who's got more of an in-depth squad. I think this season. I think the teams above them, I'm quite confident that'll finish above them. That's why I've put them down in 10th.
Okay then, Cameron?
Right, well, here it is then, boys. So in 10th place, I've got us, Sunderland. I can't see us finishing any higher than that with what I've seen in pre-season. Our signings have been, terrible. We don't have a Championship quality goalkeeper. We've got players like Lamina Kone who don't want to be there, who I really hope I never see in a Sunderland shirt again, but chances are I'm probably going to. Gilabodji, who costs us 8 million, who is just an absolute useless sack of shit. I just think he's absolutely fucking atrocious.
That's the condensed version.
I think the whole squad is just not good enough to finish any higher than 10th in the Championship. And to be honest, that's me being quite optimistic. If we finish lower than that, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay. All right then, fair enough. Okay, 9th then. I had who Ben predicted to finish in 10th. Reading. I'll tell you what, scrap that. Reading will go into the playoffs because they've got Vito Minone, the best goalkeeper in the Championship. So, next one, 8th, sorry. No, Reading. Reading's one of those who they've used. Well, certainly last year, obviously, I think they did quite well to finish 3rd because I remember going. So I've got a friend who's in a wheelchair who I went to a couple Newcastle games with. Gasps alert. I sat with him as like his carer sort of thing. And I went to Newcastle Reading last year, and Reading were pretty damn shit. They were awful. How they finished 3rd, I really do not know. Reading, I think, might have a bit of steel about them this season. I think have they still got Yapstam as their manager?
Yeah.
I thought they had. Reading, I just don't. I mean, Vito Minoni, I think, will do all right for them, by the way. But you need a team in front of you, don't you? And I just don't. And Reading don't strike me as anyone who's got a standout individual. So, could be wrong. Been wrong. Probably going to be wrong about the majority of these, obviously. But Reading, I think, will finish 9th. So, you two crack on 9th.
Go on, Cameron.
Right, 9th, I've got Leeds. Same reasons that people said before. I think the ownership prevents them from finishing any high, even though the club and probably the squad has the potential to do so. Losing Gary Monk, massive. Yeah, 9th place again. I think they'll finish just outside of those playoffs like they always do.
Yeah, I think Hull will finish 9th place just based on the fact that, it's a bit like Sunderland, really. They've had to restructure the club. They've lost the manager. They've brought a new manager in. I just see it being another long-term job like Sunderland will be. And I think that whole club has a problem with the ownership where, they've changed the name of Hull Tigers and it's all a bit it's all a bit reactive at the moment,
Yeah.
like Sunderland.
I remember that didn't go down very well with Hull. Did that the ownership of that club's a travesty from top to bottom. I feel sorry for their supporters actually.
I do.
If they try to change our stadium name and so on, like Sunderland Athletic or Sunderland Tigers or whatever.
Sunderland Black Cats, imagine that.
Oh God, that would be.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what
okay,
it's like.
let's not even go there. Thing is, everybody went on about Hull massively at the end of last year to stay up, and I still didn't think, even with Marco Silva, I just didn't think they had a. I just thought Swansea, who they were in direct competition with for large parts of the season, were better than them. Although I will say, imagine Marco. I think they deserve to go down if they lost to Billy Jones' header and one of Jermaine Defoe's balls. That's all I'll say on that one. Okay then. So right, we were definitely on to ninth. Yeah, ninth I've said before. I got Reading. So okay, eighth now. So go on then. You two start.
Right then, eighth place. I've got Derby County. I just think that. Again, I think they're a good side. They've got the potential. It's already been mentioned, but I just think that there are teams who are better than them who will finish higher than them this season.
Yeah, I've got Sunderland at 8th.
Double house. I've got Sunderland 8th as well.
I just think because we don't have a 20-goal a season striker, we're not getting to the playoffs. I think that's something that'll hinder us. And also, the Darren Gibson thing leading up to the week of the start of the season, the Celtic defeat. I think for all of the good foundation Simon Grayson's put in place, it's kind of been ripped out and teared to shreds again. And I think we'll have a bit of a slow start. And I think we will get better as the season goes on. I think we'll become more accustomed to playing in the Championship. But I think we'll just miss out. I think we'll just miss out on the playoffs.
Ben's pretty much summed up my thoughts on it. I think with Sunderland, as a club go, I still stand by it. I think Sunderland are the biggest club in the Championship. I think Villa. I think there are some big teams in there. Don't get me wrong. We're not biggest by a country distance. I think Villa are pretty big. Historically, Nottingham Forest and Leeds are pretty big, although I'm not a big fan of the historically big thing because that's a long time ago. But I just think Sunderland's got a great fan base. Truth be told, as a club, should have been managed to the point where we're not even in this division. But at the same time, I agree with Ben. Lack of a 20-goal season striker. We may very well bring one in the next few weeks with better. But I just, at the moment, don't think we've got enough to get into the playoffs. And I think other teams will be well accustomed to playing in the Championship. And that was my big fear, dropping down into this league at the minute. Because it's 10 years since we've competed at this level. And other teams will be used to it. It's more aggressive. It's more physical. As shit as I think the Championship is in terms of quality, it makes up for it in terms of how hard teams work. And at the minute, I can't say we are, as a unit, working hard enough to try and make sure that we get back out of this league. So, yeah, we'll touch more on Sunderland at the end of this because I've got a question and two to go through. But, Sunderland 8th. So, okay then. So we're starting to get in the bigger fish. Okay, 7th. I'll start this one off. Wouldn't be surprised if they finished lower, but Leeds. Now, I know I will agree completely with Ben. I think off the field, I think Leeds are a mess. I think they've probably just as big a mess as Sunderland if you want to. If that's even an accolade to be proud of, which it isn't. But Leeds have got a turbulent owner. They have had one for a few years. Losing Gary Monk, I think, was huge for them because I think Gary Monk was by far and away the best manager they've had for a good few years, and it was their best chance, in my opinion, of potentially getting back into the Premier League where you could argue they should be. I think with Monk, they should have worked harder to keep him. Saying that, I love Vernon and I like Vernon Anita as a player. Ben and Pete, no doubt, have heard me mention this countless times, but I think he'll be a good signing for them. If they lose Chris Wood, then I'll have them finishing much lower. But I think Chris Wood will do all right for them. But so I've got Leeds to finish 7th. That's again more out of instinct, but I wouldn't be surprised if they finish lower.
Yeah, I've got Derby to finish 7th. I'm actually just looking through their squad now, and I'm quite fearful for Friday. But the only reason I've put them outside the playoffs is because Darren Bent is injured for half the season, and him on form. I know he hasn't been on form for the past few seasons, but this could have been his season. It could have been where he was playing regularly, and he could have got them into the playoffs. But I still think they'll finish highly enough. They've got some actually very good players. Bradley Johnson. They've got Chris Martin up front. He's a seasoned professional. Matej Vidra. So they could sneak in, but I think we'll just miss out.
You've made me look stupid with Derby now. Thanks.
Right, in seventh place, I have got Wolves. I think the signing of Helder Costa is massive, shows that clubs want to spend money looking to push on to get themselves back into the Premier League where they were a few years ago. And also being linked with, is it Sam Gallagher from Southampton as well?
Yeah.
Who, if they do sign him, he will score goals in the Championship, no doubt about it. And I think they have the potential to finish 7th here, just outside of the playoffs, in my opinion.
Okay then. Right, well now where we get into the really big stuff, the playoffs and automatic promotion. So 6th, I'm follow on Cameron's point because I've got Wolves to finish 6th. Now I think I might have had Wolves to finish in the playoffs last year, but albeit bearing in mind they've just been taken over and they were the only club, if I remember rightly, to make a profit last year. Helder Costa, I think, is probably a big sign for them. They've signed Ruben Neves, I believe it is. Is it from Porto or something, for 15 million? I know they've signed him from a foreign team. I think it's Porto, but I might be wrong. And they've got, going to get this name wrong, so I apologise in advance, Diogo Jota from Atletico Madrid. You'd have to have something decent about you if you're Atletico Madrid in the first place, although you could argue Javier Manquillo. So I think Wolves by the fact they're spending money, albeit Villa proved last year that it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get promoted. Wolves at least are showing the ambition to try and do it. So I think Wolves will do enough to finish 6th. Whether they'll go by the playoffs, I don't know at the minute, but I think I think they should have enough. If you go off the money they've spent, they should have enough to get into the playoffs. At least.
Yeah, I've got Wolves as well to finish 6th. Helder Costa, like Cameron said, is a great asset for them. He played really well last season, and also someone that might go unnoticed is the goalkeeper John Ruddy.
I rate John Ruddy.
Yeah, I rate John Ruddy as well. I would have loved him to come to Sunderland actually. So I think he'll do really well there, and they've got the backing as well from the Chinese investment. So they have a good amount of money to spend. The only thing I think of letting them down is the manager, Nuno Santo. He's pretty inexperienced in English football, so yeah, that's the only thing I can think of that'll let Wolves down. But
well, you know what I'll say at the experience thing. You need a first chance to get experience, but it's a factor.
Of course, yes,
it's a factor. Yep. Go on then, Cameron. You finished up the start of the playoffs. Who have you got 6th?
So in 6th place, I have Hull. I just think that with them coming down from the Premier League last season, I know they have got rid of a lot of key players from that squad, but I still think that there is the potential in that group of players and with that club to be able to take themselves at least into the playoffs again. I don't think they'll be necessarily challenging for the top 2 spots, but I think there's enough about them just to sneak themselves into the playoffs.
Okay then, fair enough then. Right, 5th. Who wants to start this one off?
I'll start this one off. I've got Sheffield Wednesday. I think that for the past few seasons, they've got progressively better every season. Certainly when I've watched them, I've enjoyed watching them, actually. They're a bit, they're a great side to watch, personally. I think that they might struggle at first coming off the back of losing in the playoffs to Huddersfield, but they've got some really good players actually going forward. Rhodes and Fletcher, they've got the firepower. They've got Gary Hooper, they've got Bannon and Forestieri in the midfield. They've got a really decent squad actually. And when you compare that to what Sunderland's squad is, I think they're head and shoulders above us in that league.
When
it comes to quality.
I know what you mean.
I totally agree with you.
Certainly in terms of championship experience, I would agree with you in spades. Well, I've got Fulham to finish 5th. I was debating about Fulham for a very long time because I felt like a lot of people were sort of going off the back of last season and saying how great they were and everything. But the more I thought about it, Thomas Callas, they've signed on loan from Chelsea, who I think played quite a good number of games for them last year. He certainly got into double figures at least. He might have played a majority of them, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong, Fulham fans. Thomas Callas was someone I was desperate for us to sign. Lucas Piazon could be a good addition again from Chelsea. And if they keep Tom Kearney, I think they've got a good chance of potentially getting promoted this time. They were actually very unlucky because they were the team I tipped to go up by the playoffs last year because they ended the season very strongly. The only game I watched of Fulham in full was at the start of last season when they played Newcastle, and at that point I thought they were going to be in for a season of struggle. But I think Fulham could potentially do very well this year if they keep Tom Kearney, and I think is it Jankovic? What's the name of the manager again? Because I always get this name wrong. they've kept him. I know, is it Jankovic or something?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. Fulham, or anyone, I've got that wrong probably, so tell me what it is in the comments, as in how to pronounce it. But Fulham, I think, should do all right. So, Cameron, fifth?
I also have Fulham in fifth place. I think similar reasons to what you've said. They've kept a hold of Ryan Sessegnon as well.
Yeah, I forgot to mention him.
Who has so much potential as a player, and I just think that, again, the same reasons you said, the way they ended last season was, you normally see a team in the Championship who come through in like the last 15 games, stick into the playoffs and then work their way up and managed to get themselves promoted. And that's exactly what I thought Fulham were going to do. So when they didn't actually get promoted last season, I was quite surprised because they were my tick to go up in the playoffs. So I think they'll finish in a similar position this year, but I think they might actually have the potential to go up through the playoffs this year.
Okay then. Right. Top four now. So, Cameron, you start this one off. Who have you got to finish fourth?
In fourth place, I have got Norwich City. I just think that they've had their couple of years in the Championship kind of rebuilding the squad, getting themselves back up to that kind of Premier League standard that they were obviously just prior to the fact that they got relegated. I think Delia Smith in charge has been for a while, knows the club, understands the club. The fans seem pretty passionate about the club, pretty loyal. I think everything just kind of is coming together for them to be able to put together a top four finish.
Yeah, I've got Norwich to finish fourth as well. I would have had them a lot higher, actually. I would have probably put them second or first, but they lost Jacob Murphy to Newcastle. I think he was just coming into his own at the end of last season. He was really starting to be an influential member of their squad.
Yeah, they were rating him quite highly, weren't they?
Yeah. Bar Yeko, everything Cameron just said.
Fair enough then. Fourth, Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday, this is... My top two, I said, has been set. If there's one club who I think could break into it, it would probably be third, or the team I've got in third, or Sheffield Wednesday. I think Sheffield Wednesday, as much as everyone knows by now, I don't rate Stephen Fletcher in terms of his attitude. As a striker, I can't deny that he actually has he's done well for Sheffield Wednesday in his first season. Jordan Rhodes, Bradley Johnston, the players that Ben mentioned earlier, basically. The two games I watched them were when they played Newcastle, but again, I was watching it with that friend who I've mentioned earlier. Close friend to me. We'll watch them two Sheffield Wednesday games. Sheffield Wednesday looked very good because Newcastle last year were by country distance the best team in the Championship. And Sheffield Wednesday more than held their own against the pair of them. And especially the game at Hillsborough, Sheffield Wednesday should have been about 3-0 up or something by half time. I don't know how Newcastle was still in the game at half time. I think they'll do well, get into the playoffs, be a really, really good force as yet. And I think one thing they'll have a very good home record as well. I think Hillsborough's quite an intimidating place to go for the Championship, so I think I can see them doing well on those bases, really. So, okay then. So now we'll get into the top three. So I'll kick this one off. Norwich is who I've got third. Ben, I think Ben, you may have alluded to this, so correct me if I'm wrong. You said you probably had Norwich to finish higher until I'd imagine fairly recently, and I was the same. Yeah. Because I think Norwich, like I mentioned before when I said about Alex Neil, Norwich heavily underperformed last year for me, actually. They were probably, for me, the second or third best team in the Championship. They had the players. They've got Alex Pritchard, they've got Josh Murphy, they've got Cameron Jerome, they've got Nelson Oliveira, they've got Ivo Pinto, who I know Jack Reeve and Chris Reeve on Talk Norwich City I watched quite a few times. They rate him very highly. Bit surprised to let John Ruddy go, actually. I thought they would have kept hold of him, but it might be wages thing. The wages aspect of it. There's probably other players that I'm missing completely. Although they have lost Johnny Howson, who they seem to consider very important, so that wouldn't surprise me if they did struggle because of that in the middle of the park. But I think they'll do well. Norwich, I think, will be at least in the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if either them or Sheffield Wednesday break into the top two. So Daniel Farke, I have no idea how he's going to do. Should have done a lot better last year, but I think they'll be in the playoffs this year quite comfortably.
Right, so third place, I have got Middlesbrough. I think you look at the squad again. You literally just talked about Norwich losing Johnny Howson. He's a huge addition to Middlesbrough's squad. You've also got to look at the potential goal scorers in Assombalonga if he stays fit. Braithwaite as well could chip in with a few goals. And overall, I just think they're a pretty solid outfit, but they're finished just outside my top two for me.
Yeah, I've got Fulham in third. I think Sessegnon's going to be absolutely a force to be reckoned with this season. I'm really confident that he'll really come to his own. At the end of last season, defences just couldn't deal with him. I watched the Newcastle game when Fulham played them at St James's Park, and the Newcastle back four didn't have a clue how to handle that guy. And I just think with his firepower, they'll be up there. And I think they'll probably get promoted to the playoffs. That's what I'm looking at now, just because of the strength in depth as well.
Right, we will hold you to that then. Okay then.
I'm confident with that.
All right then. Right, then in that case, then let's get into the. I know I said this before. Let's get this into the two big ones, the top two. So, right, Ben, I'll let you start this one off. Who have you got to finish runners up?
I've got Middlesbrough to finish runners up. Could have been either first or second, to be honest, but I didn't want to give Middlesbrough fans the satisfaction. I think Bright Belonga, if they keep him fit, he'll do really well. I mean, he's quite a seasoned Championship striker. He knows the league pretty well. And if they keep hold of Ben Gibson as well, am I right? They've still got him.
Yeah, they have. They've rejected two bids from West Brom, I think, but they have still got him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll be a good leader in there. And they've got the best manager in the Championship as well, in my opinion. So yeah, I think we'll be up there.
Okay then. I've got Aston Villa to finish second. I mentioned at the end, I think I might have said to Ben off air, so I'll mention this to Cam as well. I said in the past that I think Villa, I said at the end of last year, Villa will be in the hunt for promotion next season. And I think they will be, and I'm sticking by that. I think they will be in the top two. I think they've got Steve Bruce, obviously a manager who knows how to get teams out of the Championship. I think if Bruce gets them up this year, I think he deserves immense credit, as much as a lot of Sunderland fans will probably hate to admit it, although I don't mind Steve Bruce as much as anyone as others do. I think Villa, obviously, again, like Sunderland and Leeds, we've mentioned in the past, in turbulent situations off the pitch, obviously horrendous with that relegation season a couple of years ago. But I think with Villa, they are undoubtedly one of the biggest clubs in this league, and I think that players should be attracted to going to Villa Park. It should be a pretty decent ground for them to go to, as a good place to go and play. I think they've got a Championship squad as well, and like a good top 6 or top 2 Championship squad. And I think with John Terry, that's a big question for me, because if he can adapt to the Championship, I think he will. By the way, I think, but if he does adapt to the Championship, I'd be extremely shocked if Villa didn't finish in the top 2. And they've got firepower going forward as well. Jonathan Codger, Scott Hogan, they've got Henry Lansbury as well in the middle of the park, amongst others that they've got. Yeah, top 2 finish for me, but just missing out on the title.
Right, so in second place, I went for Sheffield Wednesday. I think that they have the potential to finish in that top 2. And my main reason behind this is, if you go and look at their squad, in terms of firepower, you've got Forestieri, Fletcher, Jordan Rhodes, and Gary Hooper, all of who I would take at Sunderland and would probably come into Sunderland as our first choice striker. I think there's going to be a lot of goals between the four of them, as well as having a pretty solid midfield behind them with players like Barry Bannon. And we all know how good Kieran Westwood can be in goal as well, and how good he was last season. I think they were very unlucky in the playoffs last season, getting knocked out on penalties. And I genuinely believe, although it's probably a little bit, not many other people would back me with that belief, I think they will finish inside the top 2.
Enough then. Okay then.
I hope that happens, mind. I'd love to see Sheffield Wednesday go up to the Premier League. It's where they deserve to be.
As long as it's not at our expense.
As a fan base, yeah.
As long as it's not at our expense. They beat Newcastle twice last year, though, so that's good enough for a reason. One of the only teams didn't bottle it against them. But saying that, no, yeah. Sheffield Wednesday, I think if I had to wish one club to go, it probably would be Sheffield. And I think especially what happened with Hillsborough as well, I think they deserve to be in the Prem for that reason, but they look a good side. Right then, so top Championship winners 2017-2018. Who's it going to be?
I've got Aston Villa, just because their attacking line is pretty good. I mean, they're all complaining about Ross McCormack, who says he's not going to turn his form around this season if Bruce gives them the chance. He might not even leave Aston Villa. Have we actually made contact with Aston Villa?
I think we have, but apparently the valuations are completely different. Like they're way off.
So
I'll say off the front, I'd be surprised if we got McCormack.
But I'd be surprised if he leaves Aston Villa. I'll say that now. Like you said earlier, Codger and Grealish as well. He's a good talent, very good talent on his day. And John Terry, he's a leader. And I don't like the guy off the field, but on the field he's an absolute weapon. I think he can really put himself about there. He'll get them organised, and he'll have that bit of passion. I think. I don't think it matters where he plays. I mean, time will tell because he's played at Chelsea as a one-man club, But yeah, I think they'll boss it. I can't see them finishing below second. To be fair.
Yeah, I've gone with the same with you, Ben. Mate, I've got Villa to win the league. I think the both of you have already made the points about how good their firepower is, how good the strength is up top, but on top of that, the strength in the middle and midfield, players like Jednak with Premier League experience. At the back, you've got Ali Sissoko as well, who, okay, looked a bit iffy in the Premier League, but I still think he's a solid Championship centre-back. And again, it's all pretty much been said. They've just got the mixture of seasoned professionals for the Championship level and flair players like Grealish and Gill, who will give them, I think, a pretty easy run into the Championship title. I don't think it's going to be that much of a contest for them.
That's a big statement. Fair enough. I will admit mine. El Mohammadi I think will be a good addition. I think Villa, at one point I did forget to mention when I was talking about Villa, was the fact that last year is what I think this year could be for Sunderland, where they were damaged a lot so much by their pathetic attempt to try and stay in the Prem the year before that they needed a stabilisation season and a transition season to get used to the Championship. And I think now that they've got that out of the way, I think they'll be better prepared this time. They'll go for it. The only thing that I think could hamper them is the fact they got done for financial fair play, and that can, and unless they sell players, that impacts who they can bring in. For that reason, that's why I've gone Middlesbrough to win the league, because I think Borough, like Ben touched upon, I think they have got the best manager in the Championship. I was gutted when Monk went to Middlesbrough, even though I am happy enough with Simon Grayson at the minute. I would have still preferred Gary Monk. I think you can clearly tell that he's going for firepower, so it wouldn't be surprising for. I know Ben Gibson will be a pretty big leader for them if he stays. I wouldn't be surprised if Middlesbrough concede a lot of goals, but I think in those cases there'll be a lot of 3-2, 4-3 wins for them, because I think they're defensively a bit questionable for me. But I think certainly, they've got Randolph from West Ham, who I think could be a good solid top end Championship keeper. And they've got Sombalonga, they've got Braithwaite, they've got Johnny Howson, amongst many others that they have at the Riverside. And I think they've got the most money to spend, if I remember rightly. They've certainly spent a lot. They'll have real spending power. So, I think Borough win the league. I think like I said, the top four, my top four, any one of them could win the league, but I would pick Borough for the financial reasons and because they've got Monk. So, that is it. So that is our attempt. The other two made better arguments than I did, but that was my attempt at trying to predict the Championship table. Again, I'm sure you guys will back us up on this. Most of this was based on instinct rather than knowledge, although obviously Ben sounded very sophisticated, so probably not with his case, but but that was interesting enough, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was. It was a good insight, I think, to what is going to come.
Yeah. Although I
think you'd say we're all in pretty similar minds as well. I don't think there was too many outliers. There weren't many teams that were more than 3 or 4 positions apart in everyone's table, I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's a good sign, I guess.
Supposedly, but at the same time, the Championship, we all talk about how the Championship is literally such an open division, so, I'll be surprised if I get more than 3 or 4 single positions right. Right, we did mention, I know this is a pretty long podcast, but we will mention this because there's a couple of things that happened with Sunderland that I would like to talk about ahead of the season starting. The first one, so we have got a question to go through, so it's at MacamTalkYT. So sorry if I got that wrong, mate. The question is, for you two, opinions on what players we will have to potentially bring into the club. So obviously, presumably in this window. It's safe to say we probably aren't going to bring anyone in, apart from maybe Robin Rutter before Derby. But apart from that, we aren't going to get anyone in before then by the looks of it. So what do you two think? What do you think about the whole transfer situation at the minute?
I think we need a new goalkeeper, whether it's Rutter or not. We definitely need one. I think we need, if you're talking about mounting a title challenge or even a playoff challenge, we need a 20 goal a season striker. We need 2 new centre backs, and there's too much that we need before the start of the season to be able to have a serious title challenge or even playoff challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Cameron. I think we need a 20 odd goal scorer, striker goal scorer. I can't see us getting one in. I can't even see us getting one in before the transfer window ends. If I'm totally honest. Vaughan, yes, he can be good in holding up the ball, but I don't think he's a natural goal scorer.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I think we need a good goalkeeper because Steele really disappointed me on Saturday, but I'm not going to judge him too much off one game. Yeah, I think just based on the teams who are above us and their spending power, I don't think we'll get anywhere near them.
Fair enough then. I think I'd certainly agree. I think we need at least one 20-goal a season striker. Truth be told, I think we need more than one because obviously there's the possibility of injuries. I think we need at least, I think I'd agree with Cam, we need at least two centre-backs because I'm working off the assumption Coney's going to go as well. Aidan Flint should be one of them for me if Birmingham are looking at him. Although it was quite worrying when I saw the article that Simon Grayson said he had to sell in order to finance purchases in the window. Because as far as we understood it, he should have had a £20 million budget, but obviously that could be, that could be interpreted whatever way. Chances are we probably shouldn't be surprised that it's less than that given the financial situation. I don't know. I am a bit concerned about the financial state at the minute. I do think we will get a 20-goal a season striker at least before the window ends, but it probably won't be until the very end, like the last week of August or something like that we'll probably end up doing it. So my concern by then, we'll have played 4 or 5 championship games. How far behind will we be the rest of them? The championship, you can obviously get away with a bad start more so than you can in the Prem because there's a lot of games to make up for it. But I'd rather not be in that situation. I'd rather we actually started well. But again, our first 4 games, based on our predictions as well, are very tough. So I don't know what to say on that one. So sorry, Malcolm Talk. It just depends who we sell. Anyway, another question. This is my own question for you. What do you reckon about the Darren Gibson thing? For those of you who don't know, in the last week, Darren Gibson, in the last few days after the lovely Celtic game, which Ben, by the way, got famous on by the looks of it. You got the video we did got somewhere over 8,000, near 9,000 views, which I was very, very astonished by. So people must really like what Ben has to say. So we'll get him on more often. Anyway, since then, though, Darren Gibson was basically out getting hammered in a bar, and he had an exchange with a fan that was being videoed and has now been all over the media, and it's basically implying that some players at Sunderland do not give a shit. They do not care, and so on. That's just caused a lot of controversy. So I'm going to ask you two what your opinion is on the Darren Gibson thing, because I think we had to mention this at some point.
Right, well, in terms of what I think about the whole Darren Gibson thing, I think that if he said those things when he wasn't intoxicated, he'd have absolutely nailed what's wrong with the club. The problem is that obviously he's been filmed, recorded saying something while he's incredibly drunk after such a bad defeat and has come across incredibly hypocritical, which it is, because from what I hear from inside of the club, and I do have a few, 3 or 4 people who I know inside the club, there's a massive, massive drinking culture inside Sunderland that has been for ages, where it's almost like the fitness of the players and the way that the train and everything like that isn't as intense as it is with other professional clubs, and it's basically been used almost like as a retirement home for players such as, I mean, the amount we've had come here, such as like Wes Brown and John O'Shea. Don't get me wrong, they put in performances, but again, being treated like a bit of a retirement home. It's either treated as a retirement home or a stepping stone, and I think that he's nailed it, that there isn't many people there who care about the club. I think you could probably say Catamol cares about the club, and maybe a few of the young lads who've grown up through the club. But again, even those you've got to look at, and none of us can have a go at them for it, but look at players like Henderson and Pickford, who, as soon as they had the opportunity to leave the club, left the club. There's obviously a reason for that, and that's because what Gibson said, no one really gives a fuck about the club, and no one inside it could care less. It's all about their own personal gain rather than what's going on with the club. So I think the fact it was hypocritical, the state in which he was when he said it, but I think he was right. I think he was totally right.
Yeah, I agree with Cameron. I think if he wasn't intoxicated, I could understand. But the fact he was intoxicated 6 days before the start of a new season really kind of hits home how bad a state the whole club's in. I think it's kind of just like a metaphor for how bad our club is at the moment. But I mean, I think he has a bit of nerve seeing that Lenz doesn't care. Maybe he doesn't care, but like he has been our best performer in pre-season. And I don't know what you guys think about this, but like I said, we've got to keep him at all costs. If we want to make it into them playoffs, he's the guy who's going to get us there. He's the quality. But yeah, Darren Gibson's done much nothing at Sunderland since he's come here. So yeah, I just see him as another problem.
I think certainly I don't have a problem with what Gibson said. I think it's pretty much repeating what you two have said. I think if he wasn't intoxicated, people would have took him a lot more seriously. But it does question that if what Cameron says is true, then from those that he knows inside the club, then if that's the case, this drinking culture thing, which doesn't surprise me, I have heard it mentioned before. That really annoys me that there's a drinking culture at the club, because why on earth that should be allowed to be there? I don't know. If you had like one drink a week after a game or something, like a couple of drinks, then fair enough. But I think it's because the fact, if we'd beaten Celtic, it wouldn't have come across as that. It wouldn't have come out. That wouldn't have come out. And I wasn't as bothered that we lost to Celtic, but the manner in which we lost was very concerning, especially the few days before a critical season for Sunderland, where the objective should be to try and get back to the Premier League. I think with Gibson, if he said, like you two said, if he wasn't intoxicated, I don't think anyone would have disagreed with what he said. I do buy that at least he does. I know Ben said he hasn't done anything, barely anything since he's come to Sunderland. I would agree with that to a point, but I don't think he's been our worst performer by any means. And in saying that, I think it does show he does at least somewhat care, although you could question the fact because he was out getting pissed. That contradicts that statement, so which is fair enough. We'll have to wait and see, but it does worry. I don't know what you two think, but I'm quite worried at the minute about the state of the club, certainly going into the Championship, again, what is known to be a ruthless division.
Yeah, I'm incredibly worried. I mean, I actually tweeted about it last night. I said, just listed off a few clubs, the likes of Portsmouth, Blackpool, Blackburn more recently. Big clubs who had stints in the Premier League who just fallen off the wagon, and things that happened at those clubs in terms of like debt and stuff coming out with players, like what's come out with Gibson, happened at all those clubs before this happened, and I can just see us on that path of just spiralling down. And I hope I'm wrong, and I really, really do hope I'm wrong. But as I've said, I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if we find ourselves lower mid-table, if not in a relegation battle in the Championship this season. It wouldn't be something that would take me by surprise.
All the signs are there, aren't they, Cameron?
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. All the signs are there of a big, I mean, not to call us a big club, because I'm not on about in comparison to like your Man United and your Chelsea's, but if you're talking about the whole English football pyramid, you're talking about we are sitting in the top 30 clubs, you would assume, in terms of fan base and all the rest of it. And I think that when you've seen clubs fall from that kind of level right down the pyramid, we are showing all of the signs that those clubs did previously.
Yeah. It's really scary, actually.
It's incredibly worrying. When you spend 10 years in the Premier League, the majority of my life as a Sunderland fan has been in the Premier League. I think that I've never seen us in a worse position. And I also was talking to another Sunderland fan the other day who I think he's 82. And he said he'd supported Sunderland since he was around 18 years old. That's when he started going to games and going to watch the games and all the rest of it. And he said to me, this is the worst state of affairs and team that he'd ever seen. Even the time that we dropped down at the third tier of English football, he said the way that things are is the worst he's ever seen.
Yeah, certainly the off the pitch state doesn't give any any comfort ahead of the season. But the final question then I will ask before we wrap this up, because we've gone on for an hour and 15 minutes almost. What do you two feel for Derby? And we can't really preview Derby much because we don't know how they're going to set up. We don't know how we're going to approach the game. I don't know. I'm just thinking, how you two? I mean, I think we've got the gist of it, but I'll just ask as a quick summary: how do you two feel ahead of Derby County? And certainly, obviously, that this is the first game, or not just of the Championship, but of the whole English football pyramid. This kicks off everything. So, go on.
I think they've got to come up here and give us a shock. I really do. They'll want a win to make a statement as well, because everyone else will be watching. So I just think Sunderland's in such a bad state, and that attitude's kind of I can't imagine what it's been in training this week for Sunderland. It must have just been absolutely gut-wrenching for Simon Grayson. But I think they'll come here and they'll be looking to get 3 points off us.
Yeah,
They'll target us.
Yeah, I think the 100% first game of the season, you're on TV, you want to make a statement. They are in a much better place than we are currently. I think the first 4 games for us are going to be absolutely massive. And this game, and it sounds so stupid because you could play 46 games through the season, but this game here is going to be huge for us. Because if you think about the last few seasons in the Premier League, we've had absolutely woeful starts and no one managed to save ourselves at the end. So are we going to do the same thing in the Championship? We're going to have another shocking start to the season. Is just going to become the Sunderland trend no matter what league we're in, that we just have a shocking start to the season. And I think that needs to be a barrier that we need to overcome if we want to have any serious ambitions this season.
I think we need to win at least 2 of the first 4 games to make the fans
We need what, 8 points?
I'd say that if we get 7 or 8 points from the first 4, which is at the minute very, 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 very optimistic, then I'd be more than happy with that. I think certainly the 2 home games with Derby and Leeds, I'd be disappointed not to win, but at the same time, what Ben said, I can't get out of my head. I think Derby, again, because it's the first game, a lot of people, some clubs in this league will see Sunderland as a cup final for them. And I think Derby, I wouldn't say Derby's one of them because I think they're bigger than that, but I said a while back I think Derby would come up here looking for a point. I'm not so sure. Now Ben's really got me pessimistic now. I'm not so sure. Oh well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But final question: so you're not going, Ben? I believe because you're going away. I think.
Yeah, I'm aware, but I'm going to all the other games.
Okay,
I'm
then.
going to Sheffield Wednesday.
I believe you're going. Yeah, so I'll probably the next time I'll see you at a game will probably be the Leeds match. And yes. Cameron, I believe you're going on Friday.
I'll be there, mate. Yeah, I'll be there on Friday watching us more than likely get absolutely trounced by Derby. So it should be fun for all involved.
Okay then. Well, thanks very much for these 2 for coming on. So apologies, this is a long one, but yeah, that's our chat. That's these 2 again. We're okay. This is our attempt at a championship prediction table, and obviously we just talked a couple of things about Sunderland. So yeah, by next week when we do the next podcast, hopefully we will have 3 points to talk about. But chances are I'll be bottom of the championship by Friday, come 10 o'clock. So anyway, thank you very much to you 2 for coming on.
No problem. Anytime, no problem.
Nice one, and see you guys soon. Come on, Sunderland. Let's hopefully we get 3 points by 10 Friday. See ya.